Hey everybody, and welcome to Ricky's Sketch. Today we're going to be drawing the King of Red Lions from Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. So we're starting off with a rectangle that's going to be 20 centimeters in height and 15 centimeters in length. As well as that, we've got another horizontal line that is 8 centimeters up from the bottom or 12 from the top. So we're just going to be using that as like a rough guideline to place where the main structure of the boat goes. I don't really know too much about boats, but there we go. We're going to be drawing a vertical line that is 6 centimeters from the right that you've just saw me drawing in there. That's going to be basically indicating where the left side of the boat is that we're going to be seeing, which I've just drawn a diagonal line there, which is 8 centimeters up from the left line, the left side of the rectangle, and just coming from that intersection of where that vertical line is, and we've just drawn another. Well, we're going to be drawing another line that's 4.5 centimeters from the left edge to indicate where the left side is going to stop. So I mean, you can see that that's like we've got like a 3/4 angle on there. So we've got the left side, and on the right side where I've just drawn, where we've got that other section, the 6 centimeter box that we drew in earlier, that is going to be the back of the boat. I mean, now I'm just going to start to double up those lines so that I've got like create an actual box. So that line I've just drawn in is actually 1.7 centimeters or 17 millimeters from the parallel to that other diagonal line that we drew in. Now that's it for the measurements, which I've just gotten out of the way. So now we can get on to actually explaining what's going on, because I had to rush all of those out. But yeah, basically we've got a 3/4 angle on the King of Red Lions boat. What we're drawing now is the main body of the boat. Obviously we'll move on to doing like the mast, the rudder, and his head, which is obviously going to be what differentiates himself from other boats, because he's a talking boat, which you don't really see every day, apart from in Wind Waker, which you see a lot of, but it's always fun. It's a good game, and I definitely recommend trying it out. But I just thought that I would try something new. It's going to be a different kind of colouring method, because I'm not going to be using inks in this drawing. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out, what word I was looking for, but you can see that I'm using. You can see that I'm drawing in other details there, so we're getting in the grain of the wood on the actual boat so that we can try and make the structure of the body a bit more clear. So yes, so what I was on about with the colouring that's going to be different is the fact that I'm not going to be using like I'm going to be using Copics as usual, obviously, but with like inking is in like the outline of the drawing. I'm not going to be doing any of that. It's just going to be like straight up pencil lines that I will be colouring into instead. So it's going to give it that like cell shaded kind of look that Wind Waker has, which is like very unique to the Zelda series, but makes it look incredible. I know that a lot of people don't like it because of the cartoony style, but I quite like it, to be honest, and I thought that it'd be a good way to mix it up with the colouring, because obviously everything that I've done so far to this point has kind of been the same. I do different like techniques and stuff, like with Full Metal Alchemist there was a lot of metal going on for his arm, and Siren there was the colouring of the fur on Nemesis Q's, the trim of his coat. So with this one I thought I'd mix it up a bit and just go completely different and do it like a kind of cel-shaded effect instead. But you can see that of like from the main structure of the boat that we did earlier with the rectangles. I mean, that diagonal line that I've just drawn in, if anyone wants to know, it's 0.5, so half a centimetre from the bottom corner, the bottom right corner, and it's just a diagonal from that intersection again. That intersecting line that we drew in originally, that vertical line, is obviously the main line to work off of at the moment, because that's where the back of the boat is, like the point where the left hand side of the boat and the back meet. But I thought I'd split this video into two. So we've got the drawing of the King of Red Lions, and we'll have another drawing for Link later on, as well as the colouring as well, because obviously Link won't take as long to draw as the King of Red Lions. So obviously if anyone wanted to just learn how to draw Link, then I would advise just checking that video. But I thought it'd be interesting to split it into two in case if anyone wants to draw the boat, because he's pretty cool. So yeah, just darkening up some more of these lines after I've got the details in. I will be moving on to the rudder soon, which I'm going to be doing in time-lapse, because it's basically just a square that is going to be like a right angle to the rest of the boat, so that shouldn't be too hard. It just works as a spiral really, so it's just like a basic shape. I mean, I'm going to be doing the same for the mast as well. I mean, unfortunately, given the amount of time that I've got, I can't cram everything into an episode, or it would work out as about an hour long. I mean, even with the ×2 setting that I've got going on here, where I'm drawing a hell of a lot faster than I usually would be, even with that, it's still going to amount up to about an hour and a half, I think. So I managed to get it down to 40 minutes by losing that kind of thing, like the mast. I mean, the mast really isn't that difficult to do. It's just like vertical lines, pretty much just a big rectangle, cuboid to be precise, but I'm sure that you won't have too much trouble with that. Obviously, if you would like a tutorial on that kind of thing as well, I mean, please let me know if you would prefer longer episodes, or prefer my drawings to be split into 2 or even 3, even 4 parts, just so that you'd be able to know step by step exactly what I'm doing. I really need to, because when I'm doing the drawing, I'm not really taking into consideration doing the tutorial for it as well. So due to that, I'm forgetting that I need to slow things down, make things more step by step, instead of going right into the details like I am now. Obviously, I haven't even got the right side of the boat done, and I'm starting to do the wood grain effect and making sure that all of these lines are perfect, and going down dark on the lines as well, so that they stand out a bit more, which isn't good because it's not really helping as a tutorial. But yeah, let me know if you would like it to be split into other parts, because obviously I can do that. I'm happy to do that by just doing 3 or 4 parts, something like that. Obviously the talking would seriously diminish though, because I'm having trouble just speaking now and saying what to do for this now, because it's hard to follow along with, and I can't really just say like I did in my old videos, draw this kind of shape, which is really why I need to obviously make things more basic, and when I am drawing it, take into consideration the fact that it is going to be a tutorial and I'm not just doing time-lapse drawings anymore. It was a lot easier back then because I could just dive right into it and get what I needed done, but now it's I do need to try and make everything a lot more visible as to how I've done this, because this boat kind of just came out of nowhere. We had a basic rectangle and now it's just appeared, which isn't helpful at all. I mean, if I saw a tutorial like this, I'd be like, it's not really showing me how to draw King of Red Lions in any way whatsoever. But I will take that into mind now that I've spoken to myself and to you in this video recording, this voice recording. I will take it into account for the next few videos. Not the few videos after this, about 2 or 3 videos later, hopefully it gets a bit better. But yeah, I'm jumping into the rudder now, so I'm just going to get this done in time-lapse and come back to do his head. So yes, let's stop this now. Okay, so I mean, you can see that I've got the rudder and the right side of the boat in place, and also the prow of the boat where the neck would be for his head. Now we're just going ahead and drawing a square that I believe is 4 centimeters in height and length. That's going to be basically where his face is going to be. Obviously there's still the bits of wood that come out, that kind of hair and his horns as well, which are going to extend far past that square that we've got going on. But this is just for his face, obviously. But we're starting to get some curvy lines in there. Obviously, the initial curve is just running along the bottom of that square, not rectangle, running along the bottom of that square. It obviously just curves up at the edges, which then curve again on the right hand side, which is going to be like the very corner of his mouth. Basically, we're just working with parallel curvy lines so that we can get in the top of the jaw and the teeth, the bottom teeth, the bottom row of teeth. We're going to be getting it again, like another set of teeth above that, which will be the top row of teeth, which I'm doing right now. And then we've got the upper jaw line to draw in, which I shall be doing in a moment, or right now. But they kind of just like work like curvy rectangles. I don't even know if that's a thing, but for the nose we're going to be making it like a pentagon kind of shape, and with the nostrils they will just run off of that like triangles. The one on the left hand side, the left nostril will kind of look, well, not his left nostril, but our left nostril, the left nostril that we can see anyway, the one on the left basically will kind of look like a hexagon cut in half. If you can kind of see that just from the angle that it's at, that's what it kind of looks like. But the one on the right hand side will be more like a triangle, which kind of, it doesn't quite go to the point at the very end, and it also curves at the back as well. I don't know if any of this making sense to you. I'm just trying to break this down into shapes to make it a bit easier for everyone to get a grasp on it. But I mean, by all means, I would advise, like, if you are following along with this, as it won't help in the slightest, I would advise also looking at reference, just so that you can gauge what he looks like. Because I'll be honest, like with all of my drawings that I do look at reference, and whether that means that the pose that I draw is exactly the same as another pose, or slightly altered, or in this case completely different, that they all use, like, I use reference for all of them. I mean, with this one I'm quite happy because, like, I managed to get a pose out of him that looks quite natural. I think his head looks quite a bit bigger than it's meant to, probably. Well, not too much bigger, depending on how you look at it anyway, but it does look quite monstrous. Like, it looks like something that would weigh the boat down, basically. But he's a magical boat, so we don't need to think about him sinking at all. But yeah, I mean, I think looking at reference is always good. I don't think you're ever going to be able to get things bang on if you don't look at reference. If you can, that's incredible. But like, just from experience, like, I know that you can always miss out on the smallest detail. And with things like the King of Red Lion's head, which isn't really that memorable to anyone, really, I don't think that you're going to remember all of the little portions of his face. But obviously we've just got in his eyebrow now, which is basically just a rectangle. It's a bit curvier, but you can just like break it down into a rectangle. It's kind of like two rectangles, the way that it kind of looks furry, how it's kind of like a twig, like that. Obviously, as with most else, with everyone else's, basically his eye is going to be in like a circle shape. I mean, obviously as his eyebrows in the way, and we don't want him to look really cutesy or anything like that, we're going for the classic semicircle, which makes him look a bit more angry because his eyebrows are going down. We draw in his other eyebrow now, which is just on the opposite side, which kind of curves around, and we've also got that line that's in between the two eyebrows, which is just the top of his head, basically. But we've got that eyebrow in there, and that will just again be another rectangle. That is a curvy rectangle, the new shape that we've made here on Ricky's sketch. Obviously later on I'm going to be moving on to the horns and the mast, as I spoke about earlier. I won't be covering that in real time, or ×2 as it should be called, because it's not real time, because they're basically just simplistic shapes. I mean, the mast, just the big rectangle. Actually, no, I think I am covering the horns. I think I decided to cover the horns, so we'll speak about that in a second. But with the mast, it's just big old cuboid, sorry. I'm forgetting my shapes. And the actual sail itself. That is just up to you how you want to draw it really. It doesn't need to be the exact same as mine, but the way that I've drawn it, the wind is blowing against him, so the mast will be puffing out on the other side. I don't know whether I spoke about this in the first half of this video or not, because like an idiot I I messed up with the recording, so I had to do it again basically. But this video has been split into two parts, so we're going to have Link being drawn in the next part as well. So I mean, that's probably one that will see the most interest, because Link's always fun to draw and it's a lot easier. Like, I think I broke him down into basic shapes a lot better than the King of Red Lions, so hopefully it'll be a bit easier to follow along with as well. And because he's such, like, obviously he doesn't have as much detail as the King of Red Lions, it'll be something that won't take as long to do either. So that'll be an hour long, that video will be, of course, like all my other ones. But seriously, do let me know if you would like me to break things down. I mean, if you wanted to see the mast, I'm happy to do that. If you wanted me to cut, make the parts 3-4 episodes long instead, I wouldn't know. I don't know how the narration, how much that would suffer, because you don't want to hear my drony voice for that long. I don't think. I think I did cover this in the first part. I don't know. If I did, I'm sorry, because you don't want to hear my drony voice that much. But yeah, the bit underneath his eye is kind of just like an L shape. It's like a backwards L, Waluigi, basically. But it's a 3D version, because why not? And it's a bit more diagonal on the outer line of that which I'm drawing in now. Sorry, just yawned. I'm sure everyone else is yawning at this as well, but as I say, the head is being done now. So obviously you can make him out a bit more now. I'm going to be getting his like bigger teeth in as well, like his big big. They're like single tooth, but there's plural of them. Is that teeth or tooths? It can't be tooths. That's just not a word. But I'm going to be getting those in, nevertheless, and his hair as well. Because I mean, obviously, with his face, it's something that, like, with the lines that would usually be curvy or something, because he's been cut out out of wood, and it's from the old graphics as well of Wind Waker, how everything's a lot more like blocky and sharper than your usual curvy lines. That kind of just adds to it. It makes him what he is, which I do like. I did like drawing his face and his body, to be honest, like how blocky it was. It was quite interesting, building up the layers, and his face is starting to come along now and look a bit more memorable, noticeable of what he actually looks like. Or I find anyway. So that's basically his main face. His main face, as opposed to his hidden face. That's his sub face that is hidden in one of his sections. But this is his main face anyway. So we're just darkening up the teeth lines here a bit more, getting that parallel line in, and just making everything a bit more, like, stand out a bit more, so that we know what we need to ink later. No, so that we know what we need to colour around later. We don't have any inking to do. That's what I usually use it for, though. I usually do darken up my lines so that I can make out what I'll need to ink later and what needs rubbing out. Which isn't really the best thing to do, because, as I've spoken about before, jumping right into the details isn't going to help you. It doesn't help me, especially in this case, where I'm not inking anything. I'm going to have to colour around these lines and then rub the pencil lines out later. I don't want to ruin the drawing by marking or pressing down too hard. But it didn't turn out too bad anyway when I had to rub away these really hard pressing lines. I think there are a lot more that I pressed down a lot harder with elsewhere on the boat that I managed to rub away okay, so I'm quite happy with that. But yeah, reference that I was talking about earlier, I think don't be scared to use it, but don't rely on it, to be honest. I mean, if you do want to draw a pose that, like if you want to draw something that's exactly the same as a pose that you've seen in a picture, then fair enough. I mean, if you like that pose, why change it? It's like if you think that you couldn't do any better than that, then, but you still want that drawing, then I think copy away, to be honest, as long as you're not tracing it. I think there's a difference between using reference and tracing, because like drawing the same as someone else is one thing, but just copying it is another. Obviously, if you're tracing something, you haven't technically done anything because you're just using their exact drawing to get something that you want. But if you're using it as reference, then at the end of the day, you're the one who's like making sure that the proportions are all in the correct manner. And tracing is just not fun. I mean, drawing is something that is really fun. It gets the creative things, I don't know what they're called, creative stuff going, creative juices, we'll go with that, just flowing throughout, and it just makes you really happy when you get an end result that you're happy with. It's just like the best feeling ever. There is tooths, there they are, and we've got them in. So they're just, I mean, you should know how to draw tooths, right? I know what they're called, so you should be able to draw them. Just triangles, curvy triangles. I'm sure that we've seen just kind of like horns, really. Speaking of horns, I'm going to be getting those in just about now, to be honest, after I've gotten his hair in. I mean, if I didn't look at reference, I would be pretty amazed if I managed to get to this point, to be honest, because I don't know how I'd be able to get it like that. But I would think, yeah, his face looks about right now, let's stop, that should be everything. And we missed out his hair, and his horns aren't even in yet, and I don't even know the first thing about what they would look like without looking at reference. Reference is our friend, so I think we should use it, to be honest. But of course, if you can do things without looking at it, then that's incredible, and I aspire to be someone like that, because if I could draw without looking at reference, I know that these tutorials would be a lot shorter and would probably have a lot better of an end result as well. And I would be a lot more satisfied if I could draw something without looking at something. It's just that I know that I would miss tiny little details without looking at reference, which is why I think it's always best to look at it, to be honest. And like I was saying, if you can create your own pose, all the better, because you're using what it's supposed to look like to draw something that is the same but just in a different pose. You are in effect using your creative juices, which we're going to go with, to make something that is your own. And I think in that circumstance it's perfectly fine. I would say that the way it goes is not using reference to create something completely different, using reference to create the exact same drawing, and then tracing being from good to, best to worst, basically. But yeah, I mean, you draw how you want to draw, to be honest. If you enjoy tracing, then go for it. Who am I to judge doing that? Obviously, we're starting to get to that point now where I just waffle on about random stuff. I think we've probably said reference enough times for the week. I don't think I should ever use reference again, to be honest. The word, I'm going to use them for drawing, otherwise this channel would just die, I think. But yeah, I'm trying to think of something to say other than reference now, because I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm just about to say it. But I think this is a good time to start getting the horns a bit more sorted out, and we can talk more about that. So we shall do that now. So now that we've probably spoken about reference enough for a lifetime, we can start getting these horns in. I've rubbed out the majority of them because I wasn't really happy with the shape, but obviously we can go back and I will be able to actually talk about them now. They're just the same as any other horn, really. You just want to obviously make them curvy. They're not sharp at the point because he's not a menacing demon or anything like that, and also they're carved out of wood, so they're more of a rectangular shape. Cuboid, not rectangle. I really need to stop saying that because it just makes me feel stupid. Rectangles are the 2D version, just in case anyone like me didn't know. But these, I tend to have broken these horns into like mini cuboids. They've got their own little sections, and by drawing like the edges, the different points, and like doubling those lines up as well, you can make them a lot more three-dimensional. And I've done that on the other side as well to make it a bit sharper, and I will be using like vertical, horizontal, diagonal sort of lines to kind of make it a lot more blocky in a second. Probably going to do that right about now, to be honest. But that kind of just makes you see like where the shading needs to go to make them look as if like it's kind of like it's wood, but it's kind of like I'm doing the action with my hand now. Like you obviously can't see that, but I don't know how to explain it. It's like different angles that the rectangles are at, so that you can see that they're like set in different ways. Like obviously the bottom one is just like a normal rectangle, then you've got the rectangle coming off of that which is going at more of a diagonal, and then you've got the rectangle coming off of that which is going at more of a vertical angle, and then the rectangle off of that is going back again as a diagonal. None of that makes sense whatsoever, but we're going to go with that anyway. So that's the left horn basically done. It's pretty simple. I would say that that's going to be about like another 4 centimeters added on from where the horn joins the face anyway. The top line of that square, which you can't see anymore, was basically where the hair, the very top of the hair, is running off of. So obviously the horns come down a bit further than that, so it's not as if the horns are 4 centimeters higher than the top of the square. It's more, I'd say, a centimeter below the top of the square. So 3 centimeters from the top of the square is where you want to put your horns. If that makes any sense, which it probably doesn't, because it doesn't make any sense to me, but I just said it anyway. Moving along, let's try and actually make some progress on this. The right horn is obviously closer to us, so it's going to look ever so slightly bigger, and the angle that it's at as well, you won't see much of the opposite side as you do with the... No, is that right? No, sorry. You will see a lot more of the opposite. You'll actually see some of the opposite side, rather. That makes more sense. Because you're going to see the edge, which I'm drawing in now, which is just that duplicate line, which is parallel to the actual edge of the horn itself. Apart from that bit that I'm really having trouble explaining that. Basically, the bit that I'm going to shade in a momento will be the edge, and then that bit left of it, that white bit left of it that kind of looks like a triangle, that is the opposite side, whereas the bit on the right hand side is the side that is facing us. Hopefully that makes sense, but yeah, basically you just want to split everything into rectangles again just to kind of get that shape. Really recommend looking at reference, because this drawing is not helping at all, this tutorial that I'm doing anyway. But that's pretty much all there is to it, to his face, to be honest, to his head and everything. We're just going to be drawing in the lines for the hair, like the streaks, because those are bits that kind of been like chiseled out of his hair. The wooden bits anyway, because like obviously it just adds to the detail, like the grains of wood on the boat and other things like that. Sorry, but yeah, the horns. Obviously, everything on the left-hand side is further away from you, so you just need to take that into consideration when drawing his face at this kind of angle. It's kind of at a 3/4 angle, so you can see a lot more of the right face, right half of his face than the left half of his face, but you can still see the left half of his face. So just take into consideration that as he's turned away from us, the left side needs to be a bit more diminished than the right. So obviously, for example, he's got that big top streak of hair that you can see on the the right hand side, but on the right hand side, no, you can see it on the right hand side, but on the left hand side you can barely see it, which is just something to think about. Now we're drawing the bits of his chin, basically just triangles, to be honest, that come off the very bottom of his face, off the bottom of his jawline. You're not really going to be able to see them much. If we were looking at him from underneath, we would see them a lot more, and obviously I put more detail into that. But at this angle, you can't really see too much of it. I was wondering where I went for a second there, just disappeared, but I've come back and I'm defining his neck a bit more. What I'm doing now is exactly what I was explaining before. Obviously we don't want to make the lines too curvy, because at the end of the day he is just wood, he's just the boat, so he's not going to be too curvy, especially that kind of boat anyway, like a traditional kind of... What kind of boat is that? I don't know. Without the head and the prow, it kind of looks a bit like a dinghy. Obviously, things are a lot more rectangular. You don't really want it to be too curvy. It's not a canoe or anything like that. Just busting out loads of boat knowledge now. Well, not really boat knowledge. It's just me listing off boats, dinghies, and canoes. That is the extent of my boat knowledge. If you want a video on boat knowledge, I'm not going to make one. I don't know anything about boats, evidently, but the hair, the streaks that we're getting in, that's what we're doing now. Obviously just, again, parallel to the edges of the actual shape of his hair, so it's just 3, 4, maybe even 5 lines to replicate that evenly distributed in the hair to make those streaks come alive and make them look nice. I don't know what I'm on about anymore. Hopefully the link one is a lot more easy to follow along with, because this has just been me waffling on about well, I've said a lot, for one. There's been a lot of talk about reference. I think I didn't speak about... I think I did pretty good with this one, because in my other recording of the part before this, I was speaking a lot about games, but I'm not speaking about games now. But it was fun to draw Link, basically. I did enjoy that, and King of Red Lions is a bossing boat, probably the bossiest around, because he talks, which is good, and he's a pretty cool guy, so I just thought that I'd split these into 2 parts so that we can see me draw both, and you can choose which you'd rather like to draw, if not both. Obviously I would say that Link's going to get a lot more love, but anyway, it's about time to wrap this video up, to be honest. I've got the horns and his whole head in place, so we're going to get the mask done in time-lapse and the sail as well, and we're going to come back and draw the symbols on the sail, in case you don't know how to do those. So let's do this! So we did it. As I said before, the mast and the little like chimney kind of thing that is coming out of the King of Red Lions, that the mast actually comes out of. Basic shapes, basically just a cube for that chimney thing and a cuboid for the big old mast. Obviously it comes to a point at the top, so that's more like a trianguloid. I'm pretty sure is the correct term for a 3D triangle. Let's just go with that. We could say pyramid or whatever it actually is, but we're going to go with a trianguloid. I'm quite happy with that. Interestingly enough, before I actually drew it, I didn't actually realise that the symbols on the mast actually meant something. I mean, I thought that they might do, but they're actually from something. For example, the half moon shape that I'm drawing at the moment is from the symbol of courage, I think it is. And what I'm drawing now, which is kind of like a bit like a curvy, kind of like S shape, like a flat curvy S, is from the symbol of power. And then obviously there's another like half moon shape that is kind of like from the symbol of wisdom, which is quite interesting. It's cool to have all three of them in here. But yeah, I thought that we should draw the symbols together anyway, because we haven't covered too much of it. I mean, we've got the main part of him done, and if you wanted to draw him with a mask or without, like, regardless, it's quite a simple task. And if you didn't want to do it, I saved you the hassle of having to watch that. I mean, some people might not want to draw him with the mask out, which is fair enough. In this particular pose, I did want to draw him with the mask, and I was quite happy I managed to get that in there, as well as Link, because it's a really big thing in the way, and Link needs to be there as well. So obviously I do need to rub out a few things to get Link's head in there, because he's going to be in front of the mast, which is why I've drawn the rectangle that's coming off of it. I don't know what that thing is called. That thing that you can push to kind of sail the boat, that's attached to the sail. That's like at a right angle to the actual mast itself. You can kind of see it, but I drew that quite lightly because I know that I'm going to have to rub some of that out for Link's head to fit in there. His head and his cap. But yeah, so I'm just getting those symbols done now. So we can, I mean, this is the half moon shape that I was referring to, which is like from the symbol of wisdom, which I found quite interesting anyway. But like, to start it off anyway, I just did parallel lines to the mast, so you do the same really, depending on what mast shape you want to go with. I've just gone with a basic one. I mean, the wind's blowing against them, as I described before, I think. So the mast is going to be puffing out on the other side. So I mean, if you just draw parallel lines to your mast first to basically work out whereabouts your symbols are going to go, because they're not rubbing against the edge of the mast or anything like that, they're like right in the middle. So if you just go parallel to that, leave about like a centimetre gap, well, depending on how big you draw it anyway, but with mine in particular it was about like a centimetre between the parallel lines and the actual lines of the sail. But then inside of that portion we're going to be drawing the symbols. Again, just look at reference. I mean, it's kind of different on everyone's picture really. I mean, even for the actual game, like the game footage, like it's different depending on how the sail puffs out, because obviously with the shape of it, it's going to be making those shapes a different shape. So it will be different on everyone's pretty much, but it kind of, like, it'll be slightly different basically, but the overall structure of it is the same. Just half moon, a deeper half moon, and a swirly swirl. Let's go with that. So we can rub out those parallel lines beforehand now, because I'm quite happy with the shapes that we got going on here. Just obviously darken those around a bit, and we can get to colouring those in a second. Thanks a lot for being patient with me, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get the well, I think that's it, to be honest. I think we're finished for the day. But yeah, so what are we going to do? I think this is the last actual section of the episode. So I'm just going to wrap it up here. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hopefully you check out part 2, where I'm going to get Link done and get the colouring, and I hope to see you next time. So thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.